Continuous glucose monitor. So let's start there. What is a continuous glucose monitor?
So they're just components that are placed onto the body that instead of measuring getting a glucose measurement as we're accustomed to, either, intravenously or in the capillaries, or whatever the case, that would look at a snapshot or just a single measurement. Continuous monitoring is just looking at that over the course of, different time intervals, whether it's every minute, every 5 minutes, every 15 minutes. It's doing this without your conscious control or without your conscious measurement. So that's the concept of it.
Okay. And why would we care about our glucose levels, blood glucose levels?
So in general, they're critical, especially in the context of diabetes.
Right.
Obviously, type 1 diabetics, type 2 diabetics. That's where blood glucose measuring is essential. It's essential for the diagnosis. It's essential for management. So constantly looking at these values they're critical. And where where some of this conversation will dovetail is the interest of non-diabetics. So the, theoretically healthy population is now taking interest in these different measurements. So
blood glucose monitors, how do they work? What's going on? Continuous glucose monitors specifically.
Mm-hmm. So if we look specifically at one of the continuous glucose monitors on the market, initially the first actual iteration of this was released in 1999 or 2000. So the technology has been around for a while, but with each release, with each improvement, these things have really improved, really expanded. There's a multitude of use cases and such, but in general, these can be distinguished again from a self-monitored glucose, or again, the measurement of intravenous blood or, capillary blood, in that the continuous monitors, it's a tiny needle that essentially inserts a tiny filament into interstitial fluid, which is basically the subcutaneous layer, goes through the subcutaneous layer of the skin. So it's not reaching capillaries, it's not reaching your vein. It's essentially measuring the fluid in between a blood vessel or a capillary and the skin, the interstitium.
Okay. So when you say, we're talking about, this is just for the clarity's sake, CGM, continuous glucose monitor, that's different from, what did you say? Self-monitoring of blood glucose. So we're going to say CGMs just for clarity's sake.
Yeah.
That's the device we're talking about. And you said it's a tiny filament, like literally it looks like a fiber optic wire. Mm-hmm. And it goes under the skin, but it's so small and so shallow that it's not like it's almost like a splinter, except it probably feels even less than that, I would assume.
Right.
So it's not invasive.
Right. So users, I've never used one, but users will say that there's a little bit of a pinch. They can be applied to. You'll commonly see them on the back of the arm. There's some adipose tissue there. Mm-hmm. Anywhere you kind of see, subcutaneous injections given. So the abdomen, the thigh, even the calf, the back of the arm. Those are the most common sites. I would say the tricep area being the most common.
So somewhere there's just a little bit of fat, and it's out of the way.
Right. And there's a little, like I said, users will say there's a little bit of a pinch, but once it's in there, again, because the needle is technically retracted, it's not like this persistent pain. And beyond some reactions from the adhesive that's actually on the patch or on the device, not a whole lot of physical issues that stem from use,
Okay, so it's measuring in the interstitium, you said? Mm-hmm. Interstitial fluid. How is that? That's different from self-monitoring or the traditional method. Am I getting ahead of us?
No, that's great. That's a great point.
Okay, so
I like this, this pace.
It's good.
It's good pace.
All right. All right. So the interstitial measurement of a CGM is different slightly from the blood measurement of self-monitoring, the traditional self-monitoring.
Exactly.
Okay. How? Why?
Essentially, you're getting a lagged measurement of what's happening in the bloodstream. so to speak.
So you're getting the same numbers, but it's slightly later
Right.
than if it was coming out of the blood.
Exactly.
And that makes sense. 'Cause
Exactly.
the glucose goes into the blood and then it goes into the interstitium and then eventually into the cells.
Right. That's essentially how that functions. So for some people, it might seem jarring. Well, how is this, how could I possibly be getting a blood glucose measurement if this filament isn't even extending technically
Into the blood.
that main compartment of blood?
Right.
So it's the compartment just outside that circulation. And so it is strange, but again, there's enough of the research and just kind of the physiologic understanding of that, is enough to say that you are getting a nice proxy of what's happening in the blood.
Okay.
So again, that lag time is anywhere from like 10 minutes or so.
Okay. So it's not even that long. It's a few minutes. Okay.